Attention, Scorpios. Prepare for revelations that could change the way you see things. As 2019 began, many of you felt an oppressive burden of debt, loss and disappointment, as if life and your aspirations were moving in different directions. This was not a random coincidence. From April through October 2019, Pluto, one of your ruling planets, moved retrograde, leading to a series of crises hitting your sign. For many, it was a period of unrelenting tension, when neither material goods, nor love, nor the support of loved ones brought relief. But now comes a turning point. A period of helplessness is ending and a new era is beginning where you can take control of your life. A shift is taking place that has been brewing for over 2,000 years. Serpentine, the 13th sign of the zodiac, is coming into its own and turning the course of fate in your favor. Astrology is undergoing a reset, which means a powerful reversal of events. The period from June through the end of July this year will be the first glimmer of good fortune after 6 years of intense struggle for survival. This is not just luck, but direct astrological compensation for all the hardships experienced. The transits are unique in that this configuration will not happen again for the next 9 years. Financial stability and a sense of security return to your life. You once again feel important and needed by others, you are valued not only for your functions, but also as a person. Now you have a choice, no more asking, waiting or clinging to the past. Open a new page and boldly move forward towards your happy future. The beginning of transformation for Scorpios falls on June 4th, the date marked by the sextile of Venus and Jupiter. This astrological aspect symbolizes not just a favorable coincidence of circumstances, but the beginning of the return of debts that the universe has accumulated before the representatives of this sign. Venus activates the spheres of life, where for a long time there was a stagnation, bringing acceptance, awareness of their own value and confidence in the attractiveness. Jupiter, as the ruler of the constellation of Serpentine, becomes a catalyst for large-scale changes, bringing Scorpio out of the position of victim of circumstances and giving a new start. In the astrological chart, this phenomenon is projected into the first house, symbolizing personality, self-image and the right to individuality. Those Scorpios who have felt out of place since 2019 will feel liberation from restraints. True freedom lies not in achieving all goals, but in maintaining inner resilience in the face of failure. This is the state that Scorpios find themselves in when they get rid of the 5 thinking parasites that have poisoned their existence over the past 6 years. First, the fear of losing what has long been a burden goes away, destructive relationships, outdated work, blind attachment to stability. Second, the panic terror of the unknown disappears, even if the current path leads nowhere. Thirdly, doubts about one's own importance, especially in the personal sphere, dissipate. Fourth, disappears the feeling of eternal indebtedness to loved ones, while no one is in a hurry to reciprocate. Fifth, the obsessive desire for control, which has long lost its effectiveness and only restrains freedom, disappears. The sign of Scorpio is associated with power over themselves, and now the Serpentine leads the representatives of this sign on a new round of development. There is no longer a need to hide heartache behind a mask of cynicism or pretend that all is well when inside raging devastation. The energy of the celestial bodies provides not just a chance, but real opportunities for change. Those who are able to recognize and use these signs will feel not just better, but completely different by the end of summer, not broken, but renewed. June 9th is the date when an increasingly noticeable gap forms in the established order of things. Venus lines up in opposition to Pluto, the planet ruling the sign of Scorpio. This is not a simple collision, but rather a test of your ability to determine the course of your own life. Beginning in 2019, as previously noted, many have found themselves in a situation of limited freedom of action, constrained by credit, dependence on the decisions of others, and circumstances that do not allow them to exercise their will. However, the situation is now undergoing a dramatic change. The energy of the constellation of the Serpentine has a direct impact, initiating a new pattern of relationships. It is no longer the individual who is the beggar, but rather, he is being favored. It is not he who is in search of resources, but he is approached for their provision. The turning point comes in the third house, which is manifested in the ability to set their own terms, even those who previously gave orders. This may apply to the boss, with whom it was previously impossible to argue, but now the person realizes his true price. Or a relative who provided financial assistance, implying eternal dependence. A new era of balance is coming, in which there is no place for the former submissiveness. The seventh house activates the right to make decisions on debt and conflict issues without fear. Those who have been burdened with old debts, loans and unequal obligations since 2019 will feel relieved. Someone will for the first time gain the courage to declare, "I will not pay, it's not my responsibility." Someone will take the matter to a final breakup or even a lawsuit and emerge victorious, as Scorpio now possesses the determination it previously lacked. Serpentine endows the ability to psychologically resist pressure. The most significant is the inclusion of the fifth house, which symbolizes money, which does not require a payback of shame, humiliation, or dependence. If before you had to begrudge the desired, now it comes by itself. The influx of resources comes not through compromise, but through the realization of one's own value and importance as a source. Someone will discover a new source of income, someone will close an old hole in the budget, and someone will stop financing other people's whims at their expense. June offers an opportunity to experience yourself in a new role, from a person who has tolerated to a person who makes decisions. On the horizon of astrological events, June 10th will be marked by the transition of Jupiter, the celestial ruler of the constellation of Serpent, in the sign of Cancer, which will be a turning point for the representatives of the sign of Scorpio in the spheres of life, love vicissitudes and family ties. For the first time in 6 years, Scorpios will not plunge into the abyss of introspection, and take on the role of strategists, defining the rules of the game. The era of compromise, in which Scorpios gave more than they received in return, is coming to an end. Include two powerful resources, care, personified by Cancer, and the irresistible power of influence inherent in the Serpent. In the context of relationships, this gives Scorpios unprecedented power. They are no longer begged, they are clung to for fear of losing them. On the love front, there is a breakdown of established patterns. Scorpio women no longer intend to put up with the passivity and inertness of partners. A man either pulls up to their level, or he is told, goodbye. Passion alone is not enough if it is not accompanied by personal growth. It's not just love, it's a new formula. Is he good enough for me? Men of other signs, you have two choices, either grow alongside a Scorpio woman or disappear from her sight. Scorpio women no longer wish to play the role of therapists in a relationship. Their energy is focused on creating a union based on equality. Scorpio men are also beginning a period of transformation. Past love, where you had to keep silent, tolerate or give in to manipulation, is a thing of the past. It is replaced by honest and open relationships where you can speak directly without fear of losing your partner. This is a rare state of trust that does not eat the soul from the inside. Those who have been trying to hold on to toxic ties since 2019 and to this day will finally realize, by letting go of the old, you can find the present. In the life of Scorpio comes a time of rethinking family ties, when former ideas about blood ties are thoroughly tested. Having long felt the burden of kinship obligations, he now sets clear boundaries, cutting off those who have abused his kindness and pulled energy by imposing their will. Scorpio no longer intends to blindly follow duty, but seeks to create his own idea of family, where personal well-being is prioritized over a sense of obligation. There is also a reassessment of values in marital relationships. Those who have felt used begin to assert their ambitions, while those who have been undervalued, on the other hand, rise to a new level. Serpentine empowers Scorpio to free himself from imposed roles where he was only a function, be it ATM, psychologist parent, or scapegoat. At the same time, the influence of Cancer gives Scorpio the opportunity to find a true home where he is valued not for anything, but simply for what he is. As for love prospects, the period from June 13th to June 16th is marked by a surge of passion and mutual sympathy, but sharp ruptures are also possible. If a person does not show sufficient depth of feelings, you should not waste time on unpromising relationships. Meetings that occurred on June 22nd and 25th, on the contrary, can be the beginning of a strong and long-term union, perhaps even for life. Between July 1st and July 4th, there is a risk of falling under the influence of a manipulator, especially if it is someone from the past. It is important to pay attention not to words, but to actions. Scorpio now decides for himself who will be around, guided by his own needs and desires. He no longer needs anyone, but makes his own choice. This is what the new love is all about: no conditions, no compromises, no sense of shame. Between June 13th and June 16th, the celestial bodies form a unique and powerful configuration. Mars, the planet ruling the sign of Scorpio, enters into a hard square aspect with Uranus. This astrological event holds the potential for major changes, especially in the financial realm. This transit can be seen as a second wave, capable of dealing a tangible blow to the established system of poverty. The first wave, as noted, manifested itself on June 9th, bringing long-awaited cash flow to some, successful negotiations to others, and an opportunity to break out of the cycle. Now it is time for the second, even more powerful wave. Fate will give everyone a choice: to take advantage of its energy and rise to a new level, or to sink back into the familiar but unsatisfactory zone of enough to live on, but not to dream. The influence of the ninth house of the horoscope in this aspect gives Scorpios direct access to opportunities that previously seemed unattainable. It is not just a chance to try their hand, but a real right to control their destiny. To the representatives of this sign of the zodiac returns their key quality, determination, which will manifest itself in the following aspects. There will be an opportunity to quit the job, where years kept in a state of emotional burnout and content with only meager handouts. There will be an inner confidence to give up the guaranteed poverty for a new, albeit risky, a path that promises significant growth. There will be the ability to firmly, but without unnecessary emotion, to stop communicating with those who use the energy of Scorpions, giving nothing in return. Money will begin to appear where before overpowered fears and doubts. The sphere of activity, which seemed not yours, may become a window to a new life full of opportunities. If you, Scorpios, put off the realization of your project, the launch of business or the transition to a new niche, now is the time to act. During this period, representatives of this zodiac sign should be guided not by caution, but by the desire for an accurate shot at the target. The most favorable days for investment and decisive negotiations will be June 13th, 15th and especially June 16th, a day when a real breakthrough is likely. However, on June 14th, you should be extra vigilant. There may be provocations, inadequate offers, and the risk of getting involved in dubious ventures. June 19th to 20th will be a period of consolidation of the achieved results. The conjunction of Mars and Jupiter marks the peak of energetic activation, giving you a combination of assertiveness and strategic thinking. The serpentine influence allows one to see the big picture, while the Mars attribute encourages one to go after fears. This combination makes the personality almost unstoppable in pursuing goals. It's not just about material enrichment, but about gaining meaningful influence. For the first time in a long time, the voice of those who previously went unheard will be taken into account. Someone will be able to firmly defend their position without unnecessary emotions and will receive broad support. Doors that previously seemed inaccessible will open, as you realize that there is no longer a need to wait for ideal circumstances. It is time to create them yourself. For Scorpios comes a period when cautious steps give way to precise and verified actions. The whole month of June will be a kind of test of readiness to go beyond the usual scenario of survival. A positive answer will open the way to managing your own life in all its splendor. July 1st to 5th, the sextile of Neptune to Pluto will mark not just a favorable astrological aspect, but the end of a long period of instability. For Scorpios, this will be a moment of surrender to fate, when everything that has been depressing since 2019 will begin to disappear not only in theory, but also in practice. It is about getting rid of debts, addictions, and the feeling of eternal calculation with the past. There is no longer a need to live under constant constraints. Pluto, as the ruler of the sign, and Neptune, as a point of hidden potential, trigger the mechanism of realization of what previously seemed unfulfilled. In practice, this translates into a stable income that replaces the chaos and constant patching of holes. There is clarity about further actions, supported not only by dreams, but also by concrete steps. There is no dependence on the opinion of others, family, friends, partners, or bosses. Scorpio has always strived for independence, but in recent years, as if trapped in a trap, where each step forward was accompanied by 2 steps back. Now, for the first time, he goes out into the open, where you can act without explanations and excuses. At the end of July, specifically on the 28th and 31st, the celestial bodies line up in sextiles, with Saturn in harmonious aspect to Pluto. This astrological event marks a period of strengthening new endeavors. Ideas and projects born in June and publicized in July become systematic and structured. Saturn, the symbol of order and discipline, represents not ephemeral dreams, but systematic progress, step by step. How does this manifest itself in the life of Scorpios? Representatives of this zodiac sign do not refuse to take risks, but take it under control. In their arsenal, new tools appear, documents are drawn up, connections are established, deals are made and balanced decisions are made. For example, those who at the beginning of the summer only considered leaving the mercenary work, by the end of July already have their first clients. Those who doubted the necessity of divorce, gain freedom and start life anew. Those who were experiencing financial difficulties see a steady cash flow and learn to manage it. Scorpios are rethinking their approaches to life. They no longer strive for ideal conditions, realizing their unattainability, but skillfully use the available opportunities. Grievances and past failures do not restrain them, but serve as an incentive to move forward. They learn lessons from the past, discarding everything that hinders their development. For the first time in a long time, Scorpios feel complete freedom of choice and control over their lives. It is important to realize the magnitude of the changes taking place. For more than 2 millennia the Sun has been in the age of Pisces, the age of sacrifice and waiting. During this time, more than 30 solar days have accumulated in the ecliptic, which are now being taken over by Serpentine. This is not just the addition of a new zodiac sign, but rather a reboot of the entire system. Serpentine takes its place between November 29th and December 17th, and the energetic influence begins to be felt even earlier, in the transitional corridor from November 23rd to 29th. For Scorpios born on these days, a new countdown begins. However, you should not rush to conclusions and change your astrological charts. The energy of change develops gradually, and now we are only in the first phase. It is important to keep a close eye on the events, analyze them and check them in practice. The new astrology requires precision and does not tolerate fuss. This is only the beginning of a new era.